if guys would sit down and just invest time in it, just and do it in a written manual, not digital, but get a highlighter, get a pencil, get some, post-it notes, and just go through that thing. Highlight stuff that you need to use on a daily basis. Make notes in it, things that make sense. I still go back to notes that I made 25 years ago on stuff, just because it helps me go back and remember what it was like to learn it. Some of you guys that are on the call, you're probably senior techs. I mean, you've been doing this, you know it. Others, guys, you may just be getting into this. That's great. Document where you're at and what you struggled with, because as you get more senior, as Zach and I are, you're going to forget where you came from. It's
Literally.
one of the biggest problems that I have. You forget what it was like to be a rookie, and there is a blessing in that you guys might not realize. You may be striving to be the senior guy, and that's great, but don't forget where you came from. I still remember, because I wrote it down, how hard it was for me to grasp superheat and subcooling. My mind, I could not wrap my head around the temperatures being higher or lower, what it needed to be for superheat and subcooling. What did it even mean? Because I slept halfway through vocational school. So I'm sure I either skipped or didn't hear it when they talked about it. But going back and seeing how I struggled with that and how I finally started to make sense of it, it makes it easier for those of you that maybe one day want to teach this stuff. It'll help you relate with the guys that are getting into it.
I don't know how I'm supposed to top inspirational stuff now.
Oh, that wasn't inspirational. That was just right. You take notes on where you're at.
So no, it was inspirational, and even more inspirational because you don't even identify it as inspirational. So it's taking on this selfless quality too, David. That's good.
Sorry, man.
And I'm not even supposed to tell you because that would just ruin it for you.
Bummer, dude.
Oh, I read that in the book I was reading the other day. There's a bunch of stuff about being selfless and not waving your hands everywhere saying "Look at me, look at me." It was the Gospels.
There you go.
There's a whole bunch
Good
about it. But the funny thing is that like that whole section, and I'm referring to like Sermon on the Mount, like every single thing that he's teaching. Well, not every single thing, but a significant part of it is, hey, don't be full of yourself, okay? It's not about what's me. Every command is like you're not doing this for everybody to see, and it's just good advice. And I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but in the words of Paul, we're not that important.
I'm sorry.
Well, I couldn't. I think about it, and it kind of fires me up, and I get excited about it, because I always think because Paul said in one of his, let's be technical, epistles, that we're not that important. So we shouldn't think of ourselves as such. And it makes it a lot easier to learn if you can have that mentality, because if you're not that important, and that's not in the derogatory way. It's just we're not all, center of the universe, basically. So you don't have a lot to lose when you learn something and someone sees it. You don't know something because, you're not the center of the universe. Wait, that went a different direction.
There's two types of mindset that they talk about. There's a learning mindset, the type that you're always trying to grow. And you look at things as new experiences, and there's one called a fixed mindset, where you think you have to know everything right then, and people are supposed to naturally be the best or they're the worst, and you just the people that are typically perfectionists. And the more you learn about this stuff, airflow, for instance, I started learning about this stuff back in the mid '90s. And the more I learn, I mean, I still stay a student of this. The more I learn, the less I see that I know. And that's just what knowledge kind of does to you. The more that you learn stuff, you're like, man, I really don't know what in the hell I'm talking about. You just, that's what knowledge does to you. It humbles you.
Absolutely. Hey, I read a book about that too. I think it's called Ecclesiastes. And the whole thing was about, hey, you go as far as you can and realize you haven't gone nowhere. That's a summary for everybody. There you go.
We talked about me words. We talked about meek for those of you that are, and that's to break it down simple, being meek, it's not weak. It's actually strength under control. For those of you guys that are listening to this that are senior techs, you're going to have new guys looking up to you. And remember what it was like to be in their role. Be under control as you're trying to help them learn. Sometimes it's easy to get frustrated because you're going to ask questions and you're like, man, did you take a lethal dose of no brains before you came in this morning? What type of question's that? they don't know. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask. And that's, if you consider it from a rookie's eyes, if people knew, they would ask. And the fact that guys ask questions, to me, that's great because it shows they want to learn. It's when guys don't ask questions. That's when you got to start worrying, because they either just they don't care, or they know you're going to respond in a negative way, and shut them down.
You'd be stuck in time too because of that, never going anywhere.
Yeah,